Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another BRAP. It is July 24th, as a matter of fact. Forgot the date here. Welcome back, everyone. And got a lot to talk about this evening. But before we get into the topics, I do want to give a big shout out to everyone in the live chat. Thank you so much for coming by and hanging out with us this evening. As always, I really do appreciate the support. And by the way, I haven't really officially announced this, so I am announcing this now today that we do have. If you look, obviously every week we appreciate everyone who watches the show, supports the show, who has subscribed to the channel over the last couple of years that we've been doing BRAP. And then, truth serum, it's Tiffy time. I love that, by the way. Speaking of Tiffy time, I'm actually on the background here. I'm watching AEW. Mariah May's wrestling right now. She actually not as I think as built as Tiffany Stratton, but she kind of reminds me a little bit of her. But anyhow, before I totally derail the conversation here, so as always, we really thank everyone who watches the show either live or watches the replay. Certainly appreciate those who subscribe, those who contribute via super chats. But we do have a member subscription now, a membership, if you will, for BRAP. So definitely check that out. Those individuals who join BRAP, who are members, it's $2.99 a month. We'll give you access to member only perks, such as member only polls and the opportunity to win free monthly giveaways. So, consider joining the membership tier of the channel. And as always, certainly appreciate the support and the time as well. So thank you. But I wanted to make that announcement because it's something that's been in the works that you could do now. So what's up, Ramon Terrell? Ramon's in the house. Great to see you. Lansville Paul, True Serum AC, Otacon Ocelot. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. And the panel will be joining us here in just a bit as well. But we are going to discuss Concord. Has Concord failed? I see a lot of people discussing Concord and whether or not Landville's Paul says, I work too hard, $2.99 a little steep. Thank you. Hey, look, being here, you're also supporting the channel. Yeah, true. It's a long time coming. Yeah, I've been on the fence, kind of back and forth with whether I should have a membership tier, and decided what the heck, why not? And as I mentioned, they are perks. You do get perks to membership polls, exclusive membership polls, and then also one of the perks. Something we used to do. One of the perks of being a member is once a month we'll be doing a giveaway. So those who are members will have an opportunity to win a gaming related giveaway. So true, it's been a long time coming, but we're going to discuss Concord. There's been a lot of dialogue around Concord post beta. I've seen people look at the beta numbers on Steam and have proclaimed that this game is going to fail. I've seen people say that it should be free to play, that charging $40 it means that it's instantaneously going to fail. Because it's competing with other hero shooters, that are in that free to play space. And Firewalk did give an update on their vision and answer some of the questions that people had with regards to Concord, which releases next month, but on PC and PlayStation. So we're going to talk about that though, and then Call of Duty is now on GamePass. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. So we're talking about the impact of Call of Duty. Is it enough to save Game Pass? Also, the FTC pushing back on Xbox, and that is a result of the price increases to Xbox Game Pass. So there's some other topics that we'll discuss as well, and there is some there is some additional layoffs that we're going to talk about, unfortunately. And, and then we're going to discuss Ubisoft and we'll get into the Ubisoft thing here in just a minute. But anyhow, I finally finished the Elden Ring Shadows of the Erdtree DLC. I enjoyed my time in the DLC, but I will say this. I was a little disappointed with the ending of the DLC, and I'll just leave it at that. I'll let those who are still grinding, working their way through the DLC to have that experience before I get into it. But I have to say, I was a bit disappointed with the conclusion of the DLC. I thoroughly enjoyed the playthrough. It was a lot of fun. Enjoyed tinkering with my character build and with upgrading some of the weapons that I had, but I did primarily use the primary armor set that I obtained in the main Elden Ring game, and primarily did find myself using the Bloodfang sword, which inflicts bleed damage. I still using that quite a bit, but did try out some other weapons as well with my quality build. So, but there were some memorable battles. The legendary boss battle of I forget the dragon's name now. Oh shoot, I have to look this up now. Bale. That dragon battle, that sequence, that particular set piece was incredible. So AC says I'm still playing the main Elden Ring game, 152 hours in. So I don't know. I may go back. It's interesting. Like I did watch a lot of the Elden Ring videos, and I was watching these cool builds. People who had invested a lot in Faith and Arcane, and so I may go back and do that to try using a build that relies a lot on spells and stuff. And so. Because I never really have done that. I've always done like quality builds in many of the Souls games that I've played, in this particular Elden Ring. So I may go back and try doing that. So Faith build, yeah, AC says Faith build. There's some really cool builds with the Faith build. So I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about maybe re-rolling the dice with my particular character, and maybe putting more of my points into Arcane and Faith, so that I can use some of those cool spells, because they are cool. I did actually see somebody one shot the final boss in the Erdtree Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, which is kind of interesting. There's some there's some OP builds from what I've come across with some of the videos I've been watching, and but I didn't get all the Shadow Tree fragments. I got 19. There's 20. And so I am missing one. I have to go back and try to figure out where that is. And there you go. Otacon Ocelot, who is a BRAP VIP. That's what I forgot to mention. Members are referred to as BRAP VIP. Has just joined as a member. Otacon Ocelot, thank you so much. I appreciate the support, sir. That means a lot. Thank you. So, again, if you just joined us, we do have a membership tier, BRAP VIPs. It is $2.99. It gives you access to free giveaways. I should say I'm going to be doing one giveaway a month. I want to clarify that, but members are eligible for an AC with a BRAP VIP membership. Thank you, AC. Wow, that means a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the both of you. All right, here. So if you just join the show, as I mentioned, we have the BRAP VIP membership tier. Again, gives you access to member-only polls, and then also I'll be doing a monthly giveaway. DMV. Somebody from the DMV, love the support. That means a lot. Hold on just a sec here. I have... anyhow, I forgot what I was saying here. Oh, yeah, so the BRAP VIP, so you will get a an opportunity to win one monthly free giveaway, obviously game related. So that is one of the perks, and I think a great perk, by the way. A tremendous perk, an outstanding perk for becoming a BRAP VIP member. So, all right. So, so I'm done with Shadow of the Erdtree. Unfortunately, I need to get a chance to go back to trying some of the other video games I wanted to try this past weekend for the last couple of days. It's been super busy at work, and I just been busy with baseball related things. So yeah, I just really haven't had the time to dive back into some of the other games, my backlog, if you will. I love how Ramon Terrell refers to me as Basement Ray Tracing Arcade Podcast. Perhaps I should change the name, Ramon. I should rebrand to Basement Ray Tracing Arcade Podcast. Ramon is a PC evangelist now, loves PC gaming, made the switch from console to PC, as most people should, because PC is the best place to experience all things video games. And I'll just leave it at that. So, all right. So I don't know if you guys, if everyone saw this or not, but Ubisoft, and I don't know why they've felt the need to address the outrage over the authenticity of Assassin's Creed Shadows. If those who remember, there were people that were just upset, angry about whether or not Yusuke was actually a samurai. Was this an actual historical portrayal of a character in a video game? And I'm like, people, I'm not one to ever say this, but look, I was just kind of like, look, go touch grass. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Video games are fantasy based. They're art. There's sometimes they're based loosely on history. Sometimes they're historical fictional pieces. And I just didn't think it was that big of a deal. And Ubisoft, though, did feel the need to try to explain their choice here, and I don't think they needed to. Like, why appease those people who are angry and upset, who have their panties in a bunch, who probably have no intention playing the game? You don't acknowledge that the anger. And I said this before in the show. I often feel like at times that gamers just want to be angry for the sake of being angry. Like, everyone's angry about something. And I don't understand why. Video games are a form of entertainment. They're supposed to be fun. I don't understand why people are upset about in this particular case, a protagonist. Like, who cares? If it bothers you that much, don't play the game. It's as simple as that. Pull on your adult pants. Don't buy the game. Don't support it. Enough said. But people arguing on Twitter, debating the historical accuracies and that he wasn't a samurai and et cetera, ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And it's like it's part of this outrage culture, this meme culture, if you will, that exists in video games. And I don't understand why this is happening. I mean, I remember playing video games. I remember. I mean, when I started playing video games, and throughout my life, and over the 40-something years I've been playing, I can't remember a time where people were this angry and upset over video games. It's so trivial. It's so inconsequential to anything. I mean, I just don't. I don't know. I don't get it. Warwana says, "BRAP, my missus is an Aboriginal Australian, and we have all AC collector's editions since AC3, and she doesn't want this. She doesn't want this CE collector's edition because she said if they did an AC in Australia set in the 1800s and it didn't have original playable, she would be equally frustrated." I mean, look, she has a right to that opinion. I'm not saying she shouldn't feel that way. I just don't agree with it. I don't. I think she's doing the right thing though by saying, "Look, it's just not for me." I think that's fair. I think that's what. But people being outraged and getting upset and just angry. I just don't. I don't understand. It's video games. I don't understand that. So. But Ubisoft, in a message, said that their message states that the development team is dedicated to ensuring an immersive and respectful representation of feudal Japan. Even though the Assassin's Creed games are not factual representations of history or historical characters, despite these sustained efforts, we acknowledge that some elements in our promotional materials have caused concern with the Japanese community. For this, we sincerely apologize. And they go on to offer reassurance that the game will keep evolving until launch. They specifically address Yusuke's description as a samurai serving under the warlord Oda Nobunaga. And they go on to say that acknowledging that the history of his life is a matter of debate and discussion. And so they're recognizing that. But I don't. I personally, I don't feel like they need to even say this. I think this is a bit of feeding the outrage culture, feeding the trolls, feeding the DEI stuff that I see. And look, the DEI stuff, and I'm seeing it more often because obviously here in the U.S. we're in the middle of a contested, in the middle of a. It's in the middle. We're actually in the election year. We elect our president in November of this year, and I'm seeing DEI thrown around as it is some kind of negative. And DEI is in my perspective, when people are using DEI as a racist dog whistle, and I saw some of this here with Yusuke, and. Again, this is a fictional piece of art, a fictional work of art. I don't think it warrants the amount of emotion or racial dog whistling that I saw in response to this this character review. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. And if it bothers you that much, being an adult, don't play it. Don't give Ubisoft your money. So, Mary Wilkins, I agree with you. I mean, it to me, it's a racial dog whistle. And the thing with DEI, I don't mean to get political here, but the thing with DEI is that people often assume, and this is how I know people don't really truly understand DEI. They often assume that it has to do with hiring, and that's not really. That's one facet, the goal to make a more or hire or create a more diverse workforce. But at the end of the day, the hiring decision that's made has nothing to do with DEI. It comes down to the qualifications and the skill set of the individual candidate. And I know that because this is what I do for a living. And I mean, conversations around DEI initiatives. And it's also about fostering an inclusive workforce, fostering an inclusive culture within an organization, because companies recognize that culture within itself, especially here in the U.S., culture is diverse. And so we think about DEI, and it's not just related to, people often mistake it as just only being related to color, but it also has to do with gender. It also has to do with individuals who have disabilities, physical disabilities. So people twist the word and use it as a racial dog. Weaponize it for the purposes of evil. And I just don't agree with that. And I'm frankly just tired of it. And as a Latino male, yes, I'm definitely tired of it. So anyhow, I didn't think they needed to go. I really don't think that Ubisoft really needed to comment on this, and I think it probably just fueled the flames of some of the outrage culture, the trolls, if the people that were upset about this particular character, and the back and forth was ridiculous over the historical accuracies. It's a video game. It wasn't presented as a historical accurate set piece. It's a fantasy piece. I agree with you, Mary Wilcox. I'm tired of the hate too. Yeah, that's the thing, Mary. Like, I think they're going to get criticized no matter what they do. That's why I don't think they should have really addressed it. Like, why? I do want to welcome to the show, Game Logic. Logic, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. How are you?
Good. I'm just discussing Ubisoft's response to some of the criticism, the anger over Yusuke, the protagonist in the Assassin's Creed Shadow game. I shared with the audience. I just didn't think they needed to address this. I think it kind of added more fuel to the fire, because I saw the debate kind of spark up again. But what are your thoughts about them addressing this, Logic? Do you think this is something they needed to address as we get closer to launch?
Yeah, I think it was fine for them to address it. When I talk about things that companies don't need to open up their mouth about, that's about like commercial stuff. That's about business stuff. Like like the Horizon Zero Dawn, not Zero Dawn, but Forbidden West thing. Like, I mean, Jim Ryan could have just said the game's whatever the price is, or like the crossplay thing. It started with Sean Layden. It then went to Jim Ryan with just, quite frankly, all this BS smokescreen and mirrors about why they weren't doing crossplay. And I'm like, just like, this wouldn't be the big deal that it is if you guys would shut your mouths about it. Xbox, Phil Spencer constantly running his mouth right about things. Now those things come back to haunt them or bite them, and it wouldn't have been as big a deal if they hadn't made as big a deal out of it themselves. But this is different. To me, this is about the narrative, creative direction of the game, and and people getting sand in their underpants about it. I don't necessarily know that I agree with exactly how what they said about it. I mean, because my personal response would have been to them, like, just like you said, it probably would have been a little more slanderous. Because what I would have told those people is, you guys have had content made for you for hundreds of years, right? At the expense of the marginalization of like everyone else, and there's still plenty of stuff being made for you. I mean, this is the tweet that I put out a few months ago. Like, you look at the highest paid actors in Hollywood, they're still all white. Right? There's one or two women, and there's Denzel, and as always, and then there's Denzel.
Yeah, Denzel's like, does he round out the bottom of the top 10 or something?
Yeah, he's like number 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is objective, right, tangible data that's pointing at the fact that, like, you guys still have the vast majority of things being made for you. Like, I could understand you having an argument on the day when, like, there's nothing left for you to watch, or comic books for you to read, or games for you to play, right? But the vast majority of content is still oriented around, one societal demographic. There's a handful of other things that aren't. And for you to be, if you want to be salty because, like, we're making a title that isn't for you, I mean, my response if I were Ubisoft would have been like, be salty, be mad.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I would have been, give me your tears, Gypsy.
Yeah, what does BG always say? Go cry to your mama.
Yeah, he does say that. Yeah, I think they should have said that.
I'd have been like, yeah, I'd have been like, whatever, I mean, this is the reality of the way things are going to go. We're going to make some things for you. We're going to make some things that aren't for you, and we're going to look at the commerciality of them and how they perform. Mm-hmm. right, from a monetary perspective, and that will drive where we go. Lots of people like to assert that, oh, well, see, that's why the thing didn't sell. And I'm like, well, again, we have tangible objective data showing us that often those things do sell, and they do move numbers, and that making them more appealing to a wider demographic of people leads to that commercial success. I also go back to then when we start pulling in like the movies and and TV and all that other stuff into it, I'm like, well, let's we always dive to, well, it's bad because the lead was black, or the lead was a woman, or the lead was homosexual. That's why it failed. Never, well, maybe just they wrote a crappy script. Maybe they didn't have a great director. But if the person was part of the mainstream demographic, then it's all those other reasons.
Yeah, it was a bad script, bad director. Yeah,
that's never the causality for anything, So I don't know. I agree with you. I'm tired of it. I just there are games that are made for you. There are games that are not made for you. Sometimes those games include politics, because guess what? There are some gamers who actually like games that model the real world, are analogs to it. One of the reasons I don't like Star Wars 7, 8, and 9, because they throw out any notion of political lore in the game, because there's no causality that makes any sense. How the frack was the Empire, after being completely demolished, able to assemble enough monetary resources to build something bigger than the Death Star? It makes no sense.
It makes perfect sense. They were smuggling cocaine.
Why is the Republic in such a sad, tattered state when they have actually reformulated as a cogent government?
Those are valid questions, by the way.
Like I don't mind. I don't mind that you riff on that you walk away from that, but explain it.
And by the way, not just a planet that's more powerful than the Death Star, but also ships that had equivalent firepower of a Death Star. The Star Destroyer, the Imperial's starships had like the Death Star on like the cannons or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's right. Jacob Tapua says the same thing. Why is the Republic called the Rebellion when they were in charge? Like you guys were rebels when you were like, right, when you were like had to do everything in secret. Like you guys are literally a government sanctioned organization now.
Yeah, now they're frowned upon. Look at the Rebellion.
Like, and look, I'm fine if you want to dispense with that, but great Scott, man. Like, look, people hate on me, but like this is why, and I'm not going to say Star Trek doesn't have like plot holes and stuff, but this is why I personally have always found Star Trek more appealing than Star Wars. Because you don't just throw stuff on the floor. You actually world build. You actually have causality. You actually have organization. Why? Because that's the way human beings in the world actually works.
Oh, I'm not gonna tolerate the Star Wars slander, sir. But I'm also don't disagree with you with some of the plot holes in the last Star Wars movies, which are by the way, and this is if you haven't watched,
you gotta read the chat. Palpatine hit a fleet of ships under a planet's surface, but they didn't know what was up.
He's not wrong. Well, I mean, they do explain in The Mandalorian and some of the other Star Wars TV shows. They give you kind of insight to how that happened, but still, yeah.
You know what you're about to get, right?
Yeah.
It is not my job to go off and read your content that you decide to put somewhere outside the mainstream thing. Put it in the thing, or else don't hold me accountable for it.
Hamp doesn't wait in lines. I understand. No, I don't disagree. I'm just saying that some of those things are explained, are fleshed out, but I do think those things should have been in the movie. I don't disagree. All right, Hamp, real quickly, I do need to welcome 2 BRAP VIP members. Thank you so much. Truth Serum has become a BRAP VIP member, and Donnell Brown. The Raiders are going to suck this year, Donnell. Just letting you know, training camp opens tomorrow. But welcome to the BRAP VIP. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your support. As I mentioned earlier in the show, if you missed it, we do have a membership tier, and gives you. Well, actually allows you the opportunity to win one of the monthly giveaways that we'll do every month. So, and also access to member only polls. But thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, go ahead, Hamp. Continue with the Star Wars slander.
No, I'm good. I'm just saying, like, there's plenty of stuff, made for other people. So everyone will be okay.
Yeah, no,
you don't have to get so salty about Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown.
Oh my gosh.
Right, about what is it, Spirits? I always mess up the name. The game that Abubakar's studio did. It's funny that I can remember his name and keep that straight, but I can't remember that. Spirits of Kinzara.
Spirits, yeah.
You don't have to get salty about that. Hey, guess what? Well, no, I was about to say a Call of Duty is going to come out yet again, starring a bunch of straight white people, but actually, this Black Ops has a black main character.
Oh my God, it's DEI! It's DEI!
Look, you guys will be okay. There's plenty of stuff being made for you.
Yes, there's plenty of stuff. You don't have to scream DEI because you don't get a protagonist that looks just like you, that is not Judeo-Christian, straight male, and is a gringo. So you'll be okay.
Look. We've got a Green Lantern. The Latinos have Blue Beetle.
We have Zorro.
Black people were still going to claim Martian Manhunter because that dude's green, but he's down with the brown. He's one of us.
Oh God, he's one of us.
So look, it's 2020 something. That brother's still running around calling himself Black Lightning. I'm like, look, I think we're okay if you drop the black prefix, okay, and just call yourself Lightning. It doesn't need to be stated. Look, but other than that, the vast majority of the DC universe, the vast majority of the Marvel universe are still heterosexual white males. You guys will be okay.
I don't disagree. Everybody just calm down. Yeah, no, I don't disagree, Hamp. By the way, Hamp, I do want to move on to I got to pull this news story up here. I got to pull this up, but we did get word that hold on a sec here. Now I need to pull this up because I'll forget. Would help if I could spell. All right, Hamp. We have unionization update here. Blizzard's World of Warcraft team has unionized. The entire 500-person team will be covered by a union. They will be part of the Communication Workers of America. And apparently this union will include QA testers, developers, and so forth. The full gambit of folks. Are you surprised by this at all, Hamp? I know when we talked about, we discussed the, and by the way, last week Bethesda Game Studios, also owned by Microsoft, I forget, they actually did join the union as well, but excuse me. But are you surprised by this? I know we talked about unionization as kind of a talking point for people who were backing the acquisition of ABK by Microsoft, that, Microsoft supports unions. It's a great opportunity for them to unionize. Were you surprised by this? I know when we discussed it, we talked about how maybe higher level software engineers, developers may not see a benefit of the union because it could potentially cap what they make annually. So what are your thoughts about this announcement of the World of Warcraft team unionizing?
It's good if if it winds up being effective. I'm not a super huge fan of unions personally myself, just based on my experiences and the realms that I work in. Because I'm going to make the same comment about this, I want to tie this also back very quickly to the DEI discussion. This whole notion of diverse workplaces and stuff. One of the anecdotes that I'll point out, anecdote meaning you don't have to take it as proof, is when I graduated college and moved out into the real world, into leadership positions. One of the things I took it upon myself to do having historically, only liked, rap music, R&B, etc., was I chose at that point in my life, at the age of 22, to become familiar with country music, and I do not natively at my core like country music, but I knew I was going to be in charge of people from all over the country, and a lot of those were going to come from hometowns and walks of life and stuff that I wasn't familiar with. So because I love music and it's one of the things I'm familiar with, I was like, as a leader, that's a thing that I'm gonna hook into, right, to gain cultural relevance with people, meet people like on their same plane, and be able to at least have some type of common conversation with them, even if it's just as an icebreaker. So one of the things I want to point back to in terms of DEI and diverse workplaces, and you and I talked earlier today, and I said, one of the things from an engineering perspective, one of the reasons you need a diverse team is because dudes left to their own volition are probably not going to come up with products that are appealing to women. So maybe I want women with technical background on my teams so they can slap dudes on the back of their heads and say, that's not going to work, or that's not going to be appealing. That's not going to gain, customers' attention, or, people aren't going to like using that. And so at a certain point, having a diverse workplace is just good leadership. It doesn't need to be programmatic. I hated. I came out into the world when we were under the regime of, Peter Deming's, TQL, total quality leadership. I'm like, we don't need TQL. We don't need programmatic prescription and institutionalization of what should just be basic good leadership. There's good leadership and there's bad leadership. Period. So, I'll go back to this and unionization. I mean, part of the reasons I'm not a huge fan of unionization is because we shouldn't need it, right? There's good leadership and bad leadership. But if this unionization becomes effective and it's good for the employees and it still allows for efficient workplaces, and that's great. What I have typically found, particularly in technical places, is the unfortunate reality of unionization is it sometimes leads to inefficiencies, or at least in such a way that it increases costs and it increases duration. And who do those costs wind up getting passed on to? I got news for you: corporations never eat the cost, right? So, so we'll see how this plays out. But the good thing is is to note that it's not the typical thing. The typical thing has been a place unionizes, people rah-rah and pom-pom, and then you dig into the details, and it's the QA people, it's the testers, it's the low-income labor categories, and therefore there's a reason for them to unionize. But like I've always contended, your high-end, particularly in game development, these people who are sharpshooters, who are just kind of roving mercenaries who get called in to companies to basically finish the game, right? And are the types that, because they make so much money as a mercenary, they're just never going to join like a singular corporation, because those people obviously are never going to unionize. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out on the landscape. The thing I have contended is that we're waiting to see the inflection point is that I've never said people aren't going to unionize. What I've said is I don't believe that unionization is going to go big. I don't believe that anytime within the next decade, like the video game industry is going to become like Hollywood does, where like the entirety of Hollywood is unionized. Now, here's the other big drumbeat to acknowledge and pay attention to. Just because Hollywood is generically unionized, notice that does not prevent Hollywood from going on strike. Notice that does not result in costs being passed on to consumers. Notice that does not prevent corporations from driving the revenue they pick up off of those increased costs to line their own pockets, while the employees in those industries still continue to be paid the same. And so the corporations are benefiting from the increased prices, but that's not being passed on to the workers. And again, notice the strikes of the last few years that brought Hollywood to a standstill. I mean, was that enjoyable for consumers who really, the consumers who really love and thrive on Hollywood-based content, on movies and TV? I mean, was their leisure life good? Was that great for them? I mean, I don't think so. So unions do certain things, and we've had these discussions about more hyper specific topics, right? Unions don't prevent layoffs. I think that's a big misconception that occurs. Like they lead to a certain dynamic of layoffs, but they don't prevent them from happening. So this is good for the employees if it turns out to be effective, and that's my big thing. We'll continue to watch how the dominoes fall on this and see what the impacts are, and hopefully it'll be good for everyone. But I haven't been driven to believe that it's going to be good for everyone, based off of historical precedents necessarily.
So you think that it could be disruptive, very similar to what we've seen in television and movies then?
Well, no, I'm not saying that the unionization will cause the disruption. I'm saying people buy into unionizations believing that it will prevent certain things from happening.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Don't buy into that narrative.
Okay, yeah. No, I don't disagree with that. I should also mention, I know I said QA testers, I think I said developers, but it's designers, engineers, producers, artists, QA testers, and they have formed the first wall-to-wall union at Activision Blizzard, so I left that piece out.
And that's what I was saying. Yeah, that's an expansion beyond the norm. We've criticized the people who overemphasize the weight and impact of unionization when we dig into the details, and it's only the QA department.
Yeah. Hold on here a sec, Hamp. Give me a second here. Look, BRAP's been a little feisty this past week, Logic, as it relates to things politically speaking. Somebody's trying to tell me that the U.S. economy is an absolute disaster. I don't know, man. I'm trying to figure this out. All right. All right, Hamp. Hold on just a sec here, man. Oh, Hamp, by the way, did you pick up NCAA football?
I have not yet, but it's on my hit list for this week.
Sorry.
Oh, so you are going to pick it up?
Yeah, very very likely at some point in this rotation, I will probably pick it up.
I don't know if I'm going to pick it up, but EA Sports College Football 2025, Hamp, sold 2 million copies of its premium edition. Now, this is the premium edition is the $100 edition. And so EA made that announcement last Friday that they sold 2.2 million copies of the early access at $100 a pop, man. It's a lot of money. They made a lot of money. Matt Piscatella wrote that looks like EA Sports College Football 25 may indeed be the mass market breakout hit this console generation really needs right now. Michael Pachter, who usually gets it all, who's always wrong, said that he was surprised with the result, saying that this level of engagement had outdone previous college football games before the series entered a hiatus. He's also doubling his sales estimates from 1.5 million units to 3.2 million units as a result. So, yeah, it's a lot of units at 2.5 million at $100 a clip. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So, wait, his overall were those his launch sales projections?
I don't know if those are his launch sales projections or not. He just saying, my assumption probably, yeah, because that 1.5 seems low. But it doesn't say here in the article if he specifically mentioned launch, but that's my assumption.
Yeah, maybe that's like his equivalent of like the box office weekend.
Yeah, so that's 2.2 million players, $100 a pop. I mean, it's interesting. Like we always talk about, and the reason why this particular story resonated with me, Logic, we always talk about, there tends to be. I mean, remember the whole conversation around $70 games, and I understand. Like it's. I'm not saying developers should charge us more. I guess my only point is that when I look at, and we talked about Starfield, how well Starfield did. Remember the early edition for that was $100. That did well. And so my only point, the only thing that really resonated with me with reading this particular article, this news, was that as you kind of talked about, how the market is filled with consumers who have different buying habits, different wants, different needs. and there's certainly I think as you called it, market stratification within gaming that people, for whatever reason, seem to ignore. And I think people seem to assume that all consumers are just like them. And clearly that's not the case here. When you look at what EA's done or what College Football 2025 has done by selling 2.2 million copies at $100, plus you look at the success that, and I have to pull the Starfield numbers again, but Starfield did pretty well with its early edition. Release that was also $100.
They charted MPD 2 months in a row.
Yeah, and that was also $100. So I mean, like, there's certainly a segment of the population that will pay for early access. Is my point. So, yeah, what are your thoughts, Logic?
Wow, you mean?
Yeah, go ahead.
You mean like movie tickets for opening show sells better than movie tickets for the other shows? Or that they always have problems selling the best seats in the opera that they upcharge for? It shouldn't be a leap of genius, right? Like, look, we talk about it all the time. There are aspects of consumerism that people ascribe value to, that convenience makes money. BRAP is now a proud consumer of the fast lane passes when he goes to amusement parks. Because it just makes sense. Makes for a happy wife, makes for happy kids.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, look, if you go to an amusement park, don't wait 2 hours to get get on a ride. Like, just don't do that. Because
the entirety of my married life, I have come back from every amusement park trip mad as hell. Just like a freaking rhino with an ingrown toenail. Like, I have been pissed. It has been miserable. And of course, when we're going, it's hot. Right? So, look, I get that it's expensive. I'm not saying everyone needs to buy it. I'm just saying, if you have the option, it is an incredible improvement to your quality of life. And so, look, I mean, everything. As I've mentioned on the show a bajillion times, like, I don't go to the opera unless we get great seats. And I don't even pay for, like, the balcony seats or anything like that. I'm just like, look, if I'm going to pay to go to the opera, I'm going to get in early, and I may pay more for the seats, right? But like, there's no point in us going to be miserable. Like, that makes no sense. Now, the thing you and I talked about, I can't remember if we talked about it publicly. We talked about it somewhere. And somebody responded to it. So me personally, I don't pay for early access. I pay because there are other things that increase the value proposition whereby the early access makes sense. Right? I bought the Starfield Collector's Edition because I wanted the stuff in the CE. And that meant that I got the early access to go along with it. And it made sense. If you offer me that stuff and I want it, and you add early access, that increases the value prop to me, and that makes me lean over more, right? And just go ahead and go on and get the thing. But now the models, and I haven't seen any, because I mean, that's part of the stuff that gets left out of the discussion, is that, at least to date, as far as what I've seen, all of these things that put early access on offer are doing so bundled with other stuff. And in general, I think that other stuff is also the appeal. People see, early access would be nice, and oh, by the way, I'm getting all this other stuff, so it makes sense.
Look, I'm a big fan of early access. If it has those additional perks, those things you talked about, I'm okay with it. But there was something else. I'm trying to think if there was never mind, I forgot. I thought there might have been like some kind of subscription tier with a subscription service that offered early access, but that subscription tier was more money, but I can't recall. I may just be making that up in my head, to be honest with you. So
yeah, well, a weird thing, we talked about it on the Enough to Keep Going episode this last Sunday, and it's, I mean, this is part of the thing, and I will admit, this particular dynamic to EA Play either proves the point of the people who say the new Game Pass tiers are confusing, or it disproves it. I just feel the new Xbox Game Pass tiers are extra, and they just force a person in a store to have to explain extra crap, and they force a consumer to have to think about crap that they shouldn't need to be bothered to think about. But I have literally, like, for all of the years I've been podcasting, every time we get to the EA Play topic, I'm always like, again, I always get mad because I'm like trying to figure out how to explain what the hell those things are is just ridiculous. Like, you can get this thing on this platform, but you can't get it on the other platform, and then this thing gives you access to that thing, but then, like, it's, so part of the problem in understanding. So what I really liked about EA is they reported the subscriber numbers separate from the buyer numbers who got into early access.
Yeah.
So it was 2.2 million sales, and then 600,000 subscribers got access to it. So the thing to understand, the breakdown of those numbers, of that 600K, is college football is not on PC. PC is the only place that you can get, I don't even know what it's called. It's the only place that you can get EA Play plus Premium, Uber, Velvet Rope, Champagne Room level, right? That gets you, like, literally everything. So on console, they only have access to EA Play, which is technically the mid-tier, but most people see it as the highest tier because most of them aren't on PC, and they're not even aware of, like, this other higher tier. Now, those people don't get the game. They get a 10-hour free trial. And so a lot of people who waited into early access were people who, yes, they waited into early access, but they were only there for the 10-hour free trial. It's not like they weren't entitled. They didn't get an entitlement to a license to the game. They have to buy it.
Yeah. Hold on a second, Logic. Did we talk about Resident Evil 7? Did we talk about that last week? Sorry, I'm looking at some of the articles here.
About not Resident Evil 7, but the fact that Resident Evil 8 has been greenlit, is in development, and has the same director as Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, we talked about that, but just that
or the next Resident Evil.
Just that Resident Evil 7 didn't sell well. Resident Evil 7 didn't sell well on iOS, on mobile. I don't know if we talked about that last week.
We did talk about that. I think the additional pertinent point is I pointed you to the most recent episode of the GI Microcast, which I would also recommend people go take a listen to. And they had a subject matter expert on there, at least from a journalist perspective of someone who tracks the mobile industry and has lots of mobile industry contacts. And he threw some additional light on some of these numbers. I think he said Resident Evil 7 had sold like 28,000 copies.
Yeah,
on mobile.
Yeah.
So basically, he was pointing to the fact that, look, you can download the game for free, but you can play it for some certain amount of time, and then it tells you to pay. And he's like, so of all the people who downloaded it, like only 28,000 of them, and the title of that microcast is like there is no market for AAA games on mobile.
No, there isn't.
He pointed to a lot of the same things that we say, which is like, who are these games for? My whole point with a lot of these things has been these games that are on mobile, they're for console gamers and PC gamers who already know about those games and already like those games and will go to mobile to get them. But the consumers who are on mobile and entered gaming from mobile, they're wrapped in a paradigm of a different type of game.
Yeah, it's
they're not sitting over there.
Model,
yeah.
Yeah, no, and there's a great opinion piece too by Rob Fahey on GamePass.biz. He talks about the experimentation, if you will, of AAA games on mobile devices, and that, look, it just doesn't work. That mobile platforms are broadly accepted as a sole preserve of free to play models, free to play games, and I think. As I was reading the article, I didn't get a chance to listen to the microcast. I'm going to check that out tomorrow. But I was reading parts of the article. And I know we talked about this last week, but I think one, it just reinforces the idea that, or the need for consoles, right? That in order for these games to thrive, be successful, you need to have consoles. That these games aren't going to thrive on the mobile platform for the reasons I just mentioned about the free to play models that exist on mobile, and like I said last week, just a different type of consumer that is gaming on mobile devices. And I also think it. And I think I said this last week too. For me, it also speaks to this idea the idea that people have that somehow putting your games on more screens, particularly mobile, was somehow going to be a savior, if you will, to some of the troubles in the console space. And I say troubles, people, we've heard people make the argument that the console space is dying, it's not growing, and in order to grow, you need to put your games on other devices, and et cetera, et cetera. But my takeaway logic is that it's not as simple as that, because those different devices, the audience that the gamers that play on those mobile devices or maybe other devices are probably a bit different than console gamers. So,
I mean, I think we don't give enough credence to hardware and platforms, and we don't talk enough about usability. So I think we have, a lot of people who are in the space who don't have experience with, HCD, human-centric design, and just don't understand that like ergonomics and paradigms and things like that, usability topics, they matter. I can blog on my iPad, right? I can write a blog article on my Samsung Galaxy Tab, right, with the keyboard attachment and all that. Is it as comfortable as me working at an ultra wide screen, PC with a mechanical keyboard? No. So do I do it sometimes? Yeah, because sometimes it's cool. It's the art of the possible. It's proof of concept. But like if I'm actually talking about, if I only had one choice, then I would choose to do it on the place where it's like most comfortable and I work the most efficiently. I don't want to take anything away from, the guys on the Gaming Circle podcast, because I appear on that show sometimes, but TKO and Everborn and a lot of people who are in that circle, like they like they play with the handhelds and they attach a keyboard to it. And look, I love it and enjoy that stuff. I messed with Raspberry Pis for a while. I was very much on a low compute kick. It was kind of like really the subject of my blog and a lot of my content, back. But that was also back 10, 12 years ago, right? We were in the throes of the iPad launching and Honeycomb winding up on Android tablets, and because lots of people don't remember, like Android tablets were out for years. While we were waiting on the iPad, and they just Android on tablets was just not officially endorsed by Google. But Android was on tablets since 2007. I had like a little Arcos tablet that ran Android. So I've done a lot of those things, and those things are neat. But like as I looked at like some of those pictures and stuff today going around social media, I'm like, yeah, this stuff is neat. But it's neat as a sidecar, right? As an appetizer,
it's an additive experience is how I look at it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I've always thought the idea go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I've always thought like the idea of a Steam Deck or the RAW guy, like those are nice things, nice additive things. If you want a game on the fly, like good options to have. But I've never looked at them as suitable replacements for the console, for the video game console, traditional game console under the TV, where I could sit down, hold a controller, and play on a 4K HDTV. So I do want to. I see play the chat says it would have been nice. It would have been nice if the gaming industry could expand beyond the console and PC base, especially with development costs skyrocketing. I mean, they're already doing that though, and I think they're doing that in different ways. I mean, they're figuring out how to monetize more off the existing console consumer. We see that in the form of DLC, things like that. We're seeing that with the increase of subscription services like GamePass, but they're also developers that are expanding outside PC and console and releasing content on mobile. So I mean, there is that expansion happening. Like there's a Call of Duty mobile game. EA publishes games on or releases games that are specific to a mobile audience or to mobile devices. So, I think in terms of development costs skyrocketing, I mean, I think that Obviously, I'm not saying that's not an issue. It is. We've heard other developers talk about it. In my opinion, player, I do think those things they're looking at ways to address some of those costs. When I say they, I'm more specifically speaking to like when Hiroki Totoki was talking about increasing profit margins, and they're looking at ways to do that. Some of those ways may be looking at developing games overseas within labor markets that are cheaper than making games in the U.S. Hollywood has done that. We've seen Hollywood film, and maybe if Ramon Terrell's here in the live chat, he could speak to this. But Hollywood's done this. We've seen Hollywood go to other countries, go to Canada, where they get tax credits, tax incentives for filming, shows or movies there, where the labor market is cheaper than filming, let's say, in Los Angeles, right? So I think those are things that the industry or developers are looking at doing as well. Do you have any thoughts on what player said here in the live chat, Logic? We lost Logic there.
Yeah, I'm here. I had to step away for a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was asking if you wanted to add anything to what player said about the cost of development and how he thinks that the gaming industry, he thinks it'd be nice if the gaming industry could go beyond the console and PC, especially with development costs skyrocketing. And I don't know if you heard me say that developers have kind of expanded release content on mobile devices, figured out other ways to monetize consumers.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are two aspects to that, additional aspects to that. I think number one, there are other things to do than to make stuff up and assert that gaming will be better if we put more content on more screens. I think it's also okay to say, hey, maybe control your costs. And I go back to notions of good leadership and bad leadership, and maybe showing some fiscal responsibility. Right? And I get it. I mean, I've definitely ascribed some of the blame to gamers, to ourselves, right, as well. That, as for instance, Concord, people are clamoring that, that game's not good enough. And it's part of this mentality that the social media, has, that, hey, if a game isn't in the game of the year conversation, then it's mid. Part of it is our own voicing of dissatisfaction about everything that's not marquee, and then we have some people turning around and saying, "Oh, well, AAA games are the problem." I'm like, okay, but the problem is every other 5 minutes, you guys are clamoring for stuff to be AAA like, and better than the last thing that came across. So I think part of it is that,
and then if it's not AAA like, it's like, who asked for this?
right. So I think part of it is that I think the industry, there's a problem with the industry saying we need to seek growth and admit that they are approaching an asymptote where the level of production costs is accelerating beyond what any feasible growth is. For you to see those separating speed leaders and consciously not do anything about it, that's a problem, right? That's burying your hand in the sand. That's it'll just all come out in the wash. So that's a problem. Then I think the other part of it is kind of, again, just could join with that. There also needs to be an admission that maybe there isn't much more growth. We just sell to the same player, people all over and over again. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But minus new human beings being born. Are we selling movie tickets to more people? Are we convincing more people to watch movies?
No.
I mean, guess what? We're doing some of that with diversification of the content, making content that more people that maybe don't look like you or me or whatever might be interested in. That's one thing that can be done. I mean, just my problem is there's controls and other things I think that can be put in place. There's differentiating the portfolios. I have people, and people are going to hate me for this, but one of the things I've said is like, okay, AAA games cost too much. The demand for them is also giving us no other option than to continue making them, and for production costs to keep spiraling. So one of the things I've said, it's a hypothetical, theoretical. I'm not arguing for it. I'm saying it might be a plausible business plan, is increase the price of AAA games.
Yeah, and let the market react appropriately to that price increase.
Right,
and it will.
So first of all, I think you guys are gonna get higher prices for games, for like AAA one and done, buy it at the register type games. We're never gonna. Maybe not never, but we're not gonna see this 17-year stall on price, because the historical norm has not been that. The historical norm has been there's been a $10 price increase on games, on the mainstream baseline game portfolio price every, I want to say it was, I think it's 8 to 10 years was the historical norm. And then 2005, right, things popped to $60 and they held that price until this generation launched.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sorry. So what is that? 15 years.
Yeah.
So we're not going to see that duration of a price stall again.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing I say is increase the price of AAA games. Make them $100.
Yeah.
Now, before you flip out and fall out of your seat and say, well, what are you advocating for? Again, I'm talking about this purely from the business side. What will happen when you raise the price to $100 is, yes, you're going to sell less. You're going to get a slough off of customers. What do you do about those customers? You sell those customers low-grade AAA, high-grade AA games at the lower price point. You've now artificially depressed the market and outpriced consumers and chased them back down to a price point that hopefully you, showing fiscal responsibility, should be able to manage to that new customer base. Because as long as you sell your really high-priced stuff at prices people can still afford, you're always going to have a problem with those separating speed leaders. If production prices are increasing at an accelerating rate and you're not raising prices at an accelerating rate, then you're never going to keep up. So why constrain yourself, right, to that downwardly spiraling toilet bowling do loop instead of actively doing something to break yourself out of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the argument is that, well, we need more AA games, we need less expensive games. But the problem that BRAP and I have talked about is the problem is that when the industry did that, no one bought them. That's why they don't get made today.
That's why you don't see like THQ around anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean that's really why.
So how do you chase? How do you herd? I don't mean to call anyone sheep. Like, how do you get the sheep? How do you get the herd, like, you know, turned in that direction? I'm sorry, you just price them out of like the high end stuff. You stop allowing people to buy champagne when they have a beer budget.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's, again, we're not advocating for price increases. I want to make that clear. We're just giving a business reality of how to potentially address those rising costs that player addressed in the live chat. Now, I mentioned that developers may be looking at offshore teams or partnering with, we know Sony's doing this, but partnering with developers in other countries where the labor market's cheaper. And player's response is the auto industry went with cheap, because I asked him, he said that cheap labor is also not good for domestic developers. And he said the auto industry went with cheaper labor, which was at the expense of Americans in the U.S. I think what he's alluding to is the loss of American jobs, which actually we were talking about this earlier today. He said the IT industry also went with cheaper labor and offshore, which lost American jobs. Yeah, I don't disagree, player, that that's going to certainly impact some jobs here domestically. But again, I mean, we're talking about strategies and ways to decrease the costs. If you can't decrease the costs here domestically because of the labor market, then what do? The other option, I think, would be what Logic mentioned, is to raise the price to the consumer. And is you, the consumer, are you going to be okay with that? You know, I mean, I think that's kind of the balancing act. But any thoughts on his commentary there on offshoring or moving, are looking at other markets where the cost of labor might be cheaper to help offset those development costs?
I'll just say maybe there are other dynamics to that too, right? We were talking about the tech industry earlier this week and about iPhones, and right, and we talked about the fact that the reason you can move manufacturing, you can send manufacturing for the iPhone out of the country is because in other countries they graduate, right, people with the technical skills, right, and the ability to provide management oversight of those production lines, which we don't have in the U.S. because we don't graduate enough engineering students per year, right, to do that work. So I mean, it's just all part of a world that's changing. Again, I'll try not to dive into politics either, but it's part of the global cycle that's going on in the world, of a world that's changing, a technology face that's changing, and just quite frankly, some societies and cultures that aren't keeping pace with that change, and therefore bearing negative impacts from that. Yeah, no, it's it's kind of interesting that players bringing this up, because this is funny. We talked about this earlier today, more IT specific, right, and kind of what I've been seeing in some of the technology roles that I'm currently working on right now. But anyhow, I know we got off the. I forget what we're talking about. We're talking about the mobile space. But you mentioned something about, and I think this is a good segue, Logic. You talked about the idea of AAA games, and when people see a game that maybe isn't like another game, or a AAA, or it doesn't have the bells and whistles of a AAA game, that they're easily dismissive of that. And I saw a little bit of did see some conversation around Concord, which is Sony's next online shooter, which is going to be releasing next month on PC and PlayStation. And I saw people making commentary about the beta engagement numbers on Steam being about 50,000 or so. The fact that the game is $40. Some people arguing that it's a mistake being a $40 game and that it should be free to play. Therefore, it might fail. And so I did see some pundits bring this point up, where they felt like, hey, like they should. This game they should consider adding a PvE mode. It should be free to play. It's not going to sell at $40 a clip. I look, I used to be guilty of this, Logic. Like, I used to do the same thing. And then I started thinking about it, or looking at it from a different lens. And the lens is, well, we don't know. In terms of success, we don't know how are the developers defining success for this game, right? So I think that's one part. The other thing too, and I think something you mentioned too, that I think you mentioned, was that gamers tend to kind of write off a game, or maybe arrive to the conclusion that a game is not going to be successful before the release of that game, based on what they've seen, based on betas, things like that. So my thought on Concord is that, and I understand some of the arguments around free to play, but and Slomo and I were discussing this in the BRAP chat earlier, and he talked about the barrier of entry is with $40 is perceived to be too high by gamers, despite not having a battle pass and releasing free content. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, but at $40 you are receiving content and everything you need, as opposed to free to play model that requires in-game purchases. So I think that's something to be weighed. I mean, consumers are going to weigh those things and value those things differently. But I'm not so sure, and I'm not saying that Concord is going to be a runaway success, but I'm not so sure that I would argue that this game is DOA, or that it's already a failure. I've seen some pundits make that argument already. Firewalk did offer some additional details regarding Concord. They did say that Concord does not have a battle pass. They said, we want to focus our attention on making Concord a rewarding and robust experience on day one. We're just playing the game, leveling up your accounts and characters, and completing job yields meaningful awards. Regarding post-launch content, they said launch is just the beginning. We will be introducing new free gunners, maps, modes,
and more through regular post-launch season updates available to all players at no additional cost. So that was my point about the upfront, the $40 investment, where as opposed to the free-to-play model where you have to buy the content. I understand the optics of a free-to-play, that yes, you're not paying upfront, but you will pay. But this is different. You're paying $40 and you're getting additional content at no cost. So I think, again, people are going to value and see those things differently. But I want to go back to what they said about post-launch content. So they did say that they're going to have new seasons, maps, new modes, free gunners, and all this is going to be at no additional costs. They said we'll be diving deeper into our post-launch roadmap very soon. Stay tuned. In regards to will there be more in-game cinematics, they said the beta showcased the first 3 of our cinematic vignettes, which will release weekly in-game at launch. As you saw, these brief cinematics will allow you to get to know the characters and learn about life as a free gunner in the broader Concord galaxy. So, so what are your thoughts, Logic, on the conversation? I think you've seen it too, around Concord, failing because of the beta numbers, or it should be the argument that it should be free to play. I do want to mention too. I'm sorry, Logic. I've argued too, and I've said this to you. I've always thought, perhaps with the $40 entry, and I've always thought this, that when you pay money out of pocket for a game, you're probably a bit more invested in spending time than you are in a free to play game. I think it's just easier to drop a free to play game unless you've significantly invested time and money into that free-to-play game. But anyhow, what are your thoughts on the conversations that we're seeing around Concord, or whether or not it's going to fail or it should be a free-to-play game?
So I wrote a blog post tonight called exactly how everyone's
to read that, by the way.
Oh yeah. No, that's fine. I got to check it out the last minute.
Yeah.
So, and I got to go back and swing back and do some editorial cleanup. I didn't have time because I was right up against the podcast and I wanted to get it posted. But so it's titled exactly how everyone's Concord predictions are wrong. So I think the first thing is we have this common repetitive problem where people are taking their perspectives on the game and visiting those upon their perspectives on the business, and those are two radically different things. I get if you don't like the graphics in the game, if you don't like the characters, if you feel they're bland, blah blah blah, whatever. Right? That's you in the game. Right? But the business implications are completely different. And so part of my perspective is there are comparisons, to this, to how well this game is going to do based on comparing it to Fortnite, Warzone, Overwatch, other games that are in the game as a service genre. And part of the problem is, some of those comparisons get made, but they don't get made against other more pertinent examples, potentially. But it's also just this thing of, well, the definition of success for the game is it's got to be Bonga, right? It's got to be this big 800-pound gorilla. It's got to do this similar thing to these other things. And kind of as you mentioned, and you talk about, like, we don't know what the metrics and what the KPIs for this game are. My personal belief is there's no intention for this game to occupy that type of prominence or prestige on the landscape. We go back to the overall PlayStation business plan. There are 12 games as a service as part of the push in active development. And that includes Helldivers 2, which is already launched and released. So the impact of this game, let's just talk about not even like making up some assumed metrics, but let's just talk about if this game is successful or if it fails. If it fails, to me, my personal perspective is it's one of the 12 games that are in development of this ilk. That's why there are 12, because there's an expectation that not all of them are going to blast off. And if this one doesn't make it, then the end result of that is all 12 of these things are science experiments. You gain the lessons learned from deploying the thing. This is a huge thing that we talk about in software. Like you don't learn anything really about the app and its interface with users until you actually get it in their hands. That's why there's been the whole notion of agile and early prototyping and getting things out early to consumers, because you don't start collecting feedback on that. Yeah.
So Logic, is that when you say that's the unknown and I guess the roadmap, if you will, right? what you just described. You don't know how the app's going to function, or once it gets in the hands of the user.
Well, you just don't know how it's going to land on the market and how the market's going to respond to it until you put it in people's hands.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You could talk about it. You can do press conferences about it, whatever. But until you actually launch it, and that's why a lot of development teams, take the stance that, hey, that's why development teams push to early access. That's why Baldur's Gate did what it did. That's why Larian is going that same route for their next game, because there are things you learn from getting things out. And if you're looking at things from the portfolio level and you're looking at a big games as a service push as part of your strategy, there are things that you need to learn. As we've seen from things that PlayStation did with Helldivers 2, there might be things that they don't understand. And those things might be little mistakes. They may not have like the huge wackadoodle causality that some people ascribe to it. It may just be some low-level kind of dumbass stuff, like I said, about like the account manager for Arrowhead, right, who's working with them on getting Helldivers 2 out and should have ostensibly known and understood the whole dynamic of PlayStation accounts being mandated in economic territories where it doesn't exist, didn't have that conversation with the DevOps person who's hands-on keyboard clicking the checkboxes of where the game is supposed to go when he pushes the button to deploy the game. Right? I mean, hopefully what you would think that happened is that was process improvement. Car got written on it, and it got wrapped into a revision to the process the next time, so that the next time they don't make that same mistake. So our whole point is, going back to Fortnite, is I don't think Fortnite has the weight or gravitas within the entire portfolio landscape of like being the one gem that's supposed to take off and blast off. I don't think that this game is supposed to do Overwatch numbers. The development team for the Firewalk is a studio of about 170 people. They're twice the size of, can't remember what they're called. Is it Battle Fate that does Tarkov? But they're twice the size of that studio. They're less than a third of the size of Bungie at their peak. And I'm being very gracious about, doing that quantification, because Bungie was probably larger than I'm giving them credit to be at their peak. So I just don't think it's reasonable to expect that this game is supposed to do that much. My made-up metrics of where I expect this game to land is they're asking for $40 up front. If they garner 4 to 6 million users, then they'll make between 160 and 240 million. And there's no way in the world that this is a $200 million budget game, in my opinion. So I think they will be okay. The value proposition to the consumer is that you pay $40 up front, and at the end of, I don't know, say 2 years, you have more content than what you paid for at the beginning. So for some people, that will be a value proposition. The entire dynamic, I think, of this game is different than a lot of other games. It's also part of the reason that I'm not personally interested in playing it, because it requires some social tethers that I just don't maintain and aren't reasonable with my lifestyle. But I just don't think it has to do the things that other people say. There's a lot of things that you mentioned about, the game should be free to play. But the comparison I draw is Pal World's not free to play. Helldivers 2 isn't free to play. And those games were both wildly successful beyond anyone's predictions. And so I don't think it's unusual or way outside the bounds to ask for people to pay $40 up front, particularly with the announcement that we heard today that there's not going to be any battle pass. Now, what I would say is pump the brakes. Don't presume that the corporate speak that we heard today that there's not going to be a battle pass means that the game will never go free to play, or that there will never be any additional content. In the other thing, Helldivers 2 has, they call it war bonds. I mean, but there's additional monetization in that game on top of the $40 that they ask you for.
Yeah, there actually is additional monetization, and with the battle pass thing, I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, never say never. But the developers saying, look, we are going to give you free additional content at no cost. New maps, modes, things like that. That $40 investment. Right. I think one of the things they said is, we want you to own the game. We don't want the game to own you, and that's kind of the perspective that the developer has with Concord. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the topic of the comparison to Overwatch, just to go back, because I worry that some people discussing it may not either be presenting all the stuff that came back or may just not remember. Overwatch was a paid game at launch, and it remained as such until 2022. It launched at $40 on PC, $60 on console, and then there was a collector's edition for $130. right? When they retired Overwatch and they had Overwatch 2 take over, Overwatch 2 was free to play, but Overwatch was a paid game. And
why did they do that with Overwatch? Why did they transition it to a free-to-play game with a battle pass?
What's up, Slow-Mo?
I don't.
What's up?
Yeah,
I'm here to play devil's advocate.
No. Go ahead. I mean,
it's they did it for a reason. They did it so that I think that is the model for hero shooters at this point, and I think that's backed up by the fact that Concord is the only hero shooter that's not doing that. Everyone else is free to play.
Now this is my personal view on the topic. Do you not consider Rainbow Six Siege a hero shooter? I would pitch also.
It's a mix of things. It kind of is, but it's so what's the word I'm looking for? Like tactical.
Yeah.
And unique. Yeah, it's kind of like I think the people who play it don't think of it as a hero shooter, but when you look at the fact that it has operators that all they have their own unique abilities, but it's not a hero shooter in the sense that you have to learn the character. Like in most hero shooters, you'll have characters that are a tank, a DPS, a healer. They all play completely differently. That's not really it in Siege. You have some that maybe like I have a shield. I'm a shield bro, and you have some that are like, that have like different abilities, but they're all shooting guns. I look at it in the sense of like how like Rogue Company, but that's a third person shooter. But Rogue Company, everyone has a gun. You may have healers, but it's like even like in Rogue Company, I played this game for forever and I can't remember names right now, but the black guy healer, he does a lot of damage too. It's not a traditional hero shooter where a healer is like really shooting and doing damage, or however that character does damage. It's so down the list of priorities of what your role is. And so Siege is kind of in the in between, but I get your point with that. But that game also is I would say a product of a different era of live service as well, because that one came out even before all the other mainstays in live service right now, before Overwatch, before Fortnite, before PUBG. Siege has been out at a time where everybody in the console PC arena was releasing a game. The expectation is you're gonna pay for it up front, and you'll have seasons and whatnot, but there wasn't necessarily a battle pass kind of thing. I think the fact that Blizzard went if you played Overwatch and you play Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2, Overwatch 2 really isn't Overwatch 2. Like there's nothing that had changed from the day that Overwatch 2 quote unquote launched. It looks no different than Overwatch 1. There was zero like improvements visually, by performance. It's the same as that game. It was even less of a update than like a Fortnite new season or an Apex Legends new content update. They added 2 additional characters and like 2 or 3 maps, and nothing else changed. And with the expectation from the gamer, the promise to the gamer of having PvE content never got realized. And so in the grand scheme of things, the only thing that changed with Overwatch 2 was they added a battle pass and they made it free to play. So I do think that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I do think that, and I'm saying this as someone who has played, I don't know how many hours of Concord I've got. I probably got maybe 20, 30 hours in Concord at this point. And the first beta that I played on PlayStation 5 and last weekend's open beta that I played through Steam. And I'm probably going to buy the game. I'm on the fence, but I'm leaning towards buying it because I'm the kind of person that like I don't care if a game's. Well, I played Bleeding Edge. Knew that game probably wasn't going to be long for this world. Played it anyway. I don't care. I played Rogue Company when Rogue Company's numbers were abysmal, and I still didn't care. So where I think it's going doesn't matter to me. But when I look at the fact that Sony initially said, regardless of platform, you need to pre-order the game to have access to the closed beta, and then said, you know what, nah, if you got PS Plus, you can play it. That told me those pre-order numbers are probably a bit soft on PlayStation. The fact that, and it's just, I'm not even going to talk about how Marvel Rivals in one day had more players combined on multiple platforms than Concord had for all of its betas. We already kind of understand that Marvel Rivals is just more popular. But when it comes to expectations and what a platform expects from a game, there's no way in the world they expected its numbers to be where it is in these current betas. Rogue Company, after it was already dead, its peak on Steam is 4 times as big as what Concord did when people could just download it and play it. I just don't think that this game has legs. There's no way I'm going to believe that their expectation was this is good enough. And I'm still going to play it, but I have an understanding of where it is going to be. And there's a huge gap between Fortnite Overwatch success and where they're currently at right now. Like you could say if it was doing anywhere near the numbers that Helldivers did, definitely successful, or Power World, but it's nowhere near that. It's not even in the same state as Overwatch, Power World, and Helldivers. It's nowhere near the same stratosphere. They had that game just off its general interest. When I play a lot of hero shooters and I see certain trends with people who like hero shooters, and it's always around certain things that they like that really don't have any rhyme or reason, but it gets people interested. When you have a barrier of entry of a $40 price tag and those key things are not there, you get what you're getting right now, which is very, very low interest. And I could understand if it was kind of overblown, but like max 2,300 people on Steam, that's not good. I mean, like, we laughed at Halo Infinite for having that. So I mean, I know I'm kind of rambling at this point. I just kind of think, like, still gonna play it, but I don't expect to see it being a part of the conversation of games. I never expected to see it chart on any of these little monthly or weekly most played games charts that we see. I don't expect that. I don't expect it to even be a part of the conversation outside of they're shutting servers down sometime next year. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens. I'm done.
Yeah, no, I think,
dude.
I hear you. I just wasn't sure if you were done. No, I mean, I understand your points. The only thing I would say too is, we don't, and I said this earlier, Slubbo, is that we don't know what their internal, what they're deeming as success for this game, and I said this earlier, like
this. Enrique,
we don't know that. I mean, that's we don't. I mean, for all we know,
Enrique.
Let me finish my thought. Let me finish.
I'm just saying.
Look,
Okay, go ahead.
We don't know what their internal KPIs or metrics are for this game to define success for them. That's my only point. We don't know. We can speculate and make assumptions, but we don't know what those are. I mean, you could be right. I mean, they could be. They could be, we want 300,000 concurrent players. That's not going to happen, right? But or they may say, what, we expected, we projected 50, 60,000. That's where we sit based on the investment in this game, the amount of time, resources we put. We're okay with that. And then we have this projected roadmap in our minds of where we want this game to be based on content that we're delivering. I'm under the assumption, just based on what the developer said about their approach to this game, where they said, we want you to own the game, we don't want the game to own you. I think, my opinion, I think what they're hoping is that $40 investment that will keep people more engaged, to stick it out. But they're also saying, hey, look, like we're gonna bring you more content. We're gonna bring, they said this, we're gonna bring more maps, more game modes, more content at no additional charge to the gamer. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that works and how that works long term for them. I mean, it may not work for them. It may, this game may be, may end up releasing and may have that, initial blip that we see post launch of games like this, and then it may fall off the map. Or you may see a scenario where this game releases and, maybe as more content starts, coming along. We saw this with Sea of Thieves. And look, Sea of Thieves isn't, I think on the level of other live services games, but Sea of Thieves has actually been a very successful game for Microsoft. Maybe it turns out like that.
And Sea of Thieves was.
Remember Sea of Thieves
started
released?
Out very badly.
Yeah, and we all
it was no
remember
content.
The Kraken is lacking. So that's my only point.
Yeah.
I'm not. Look, I mean, for all we know, I mean, this game may come out slow-mo and it may just fall off the cliff, or it could be a scenario where they release content, and I think the content's going to be key here. If they release good content.
Oh, absolutely. Because if you look at Siege and Sea of Thieves, both Siege released broken and with a lot of bugs and a lot of issues that a lot of people complained about initially, and so that it took some time to iron those things out and for them to kind of catch their stride and see what the community wanted from the game and to deliver on that. And so but for different reasons, Siege and Sea of Thieves did not start out well. But the two things that were consistent about both of those properties is that Microsoft and Rare and Ubisoft, for both those games, stuck with it and continued to take feedback from the community and then develop the game based upon what the player community and what the people were looking for. If Sony is willing to do that and to ignore whatever the current numbers will be at launch, say if the first 3 months are not fantastic, but they're willing to listen to what the community is looking for, deliver on that, make those kind of moves, I can see it being successful. I can see it definitely, like, if they are motivated and interested enough in making sure that it works and not pulling the plug. Like, say, Bleeding Edge only lasted a year. Destruction All-Stars lasted maybe that amount of time, maybe a little bit less. If you see the initial results and say that's not what we're looking for, so we're done, then I don't think it has a shot. But if they're willing to stick it out, absolutely, it could be successful. But that's the only way I can see it being successful. Because even Fortnite initially, people don't remember, like, Fortnite originally was Fortnite Save the World. It was a completely different game. It was like a half survival, half like build simulator thing. It was like a combination of a lot of different features from different games that didn't really execute very well. And it was initially $40 to get in when it was still in beta. And I was in it. I enjoyed it somewhat, but I couldn't play it all the time because it just wasn't all that fun. But they pivoted hard on battle royale, took PUBG's idea, ran with it, and we see what it is today is completely different than what it was initially. If you're able to make those kind of decisions and take those kind of chances, you're gonna be successful eventually. I just don't know if Sony has that in them, because for what we've seen from the kind of live service games that they've done previously, if it hasn't had a initial pop, then it's time to move on. It's that kind of energy. Destruction All Star. Someone mentioned Predator Hunting Grounds. There's another one that I think that game stinks, by the way. But that's another one that was a big flopping turd at launch, and it's dead now. And so I don't think they have the kind of mentality to kind of stick with it. But if they do, yeah, Concord could be a game we're talking about 3 or 4 years from now. I'm like, man, that game it was rough in the beginning, but it found its niche and is doing great. But I just don't think that they have that level of dedication to it. And I could be wrong.
Yeah, and
but you know what I'm not wrong about? When it launches, it ain't gonna be having no high numbers when it launches. I guarantee that. You ain't seeing a ton of people playing it. When I played that game, I was running into people in the community all the time. It's like somebody made the game for this gaming community, this small little gaming community, and everybody in this gaming community was playing it. It was funny. Very first match I ran to a YouTuber. After that, I ran to like 2 or 3 guys on Twitter. It's crazy. It's like 50 people playing the game. I'm joking. But it felt like it. It felt like it was like, just this community playing the game and nobody else. Crazy.
Yeah. All right, Elijah, any other thoughts? I do want to move on to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3.
Yeah, no, we're good.
All right, so Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 will be available. Actually, I say will be. It's actually available on Game Pass today. So I'm going to download it now on Game Pass, so I can play it since I have Game Pass PC.
On PC? On PC?
Yes. Which is the
let me let you know a couple things real quick.
It doesn't work well. Don't talk. You're gonna give me the bad news.
I heard, yeah, man. Look, I don't think I'm not 100% certain because I already have it installed on Battle.net, and I'm not uninstalling it because it works fine on Battle.net. Fine-ish, it's always kind of not running that great, but it runs definitely better on Battle.net than it does through the Xbox app. Also, the Xbox app, they're saying FSR is like, it's not even the most current version of FSR. It's like FSR 2.2. I didn't hear about DLSS at all. I hope DLSS is in there. If it's not, yeah. It was just like a lot of little issues that people were complaining about. I installed it on Xbox just so I can get the achievements. And thinking that since my account was linked with my Battle.net, then look at like my account and everything I've already done, and I'd be just achievements popping, right? Nope, no achievements popping. So I said, okay, all right, uninstall, because I already got it on PC, so I don't really care. But go ahead though, if you want to play, I'm down to play.
Oh man, I don't know now. maybe I'll just buy it. Buy it on the Activision store or something. Launch it through the ABK launcher.
That's
what happened to Halo.
The response from everybody, though, when it comes to PC Game Pass, it's just like it's the worst version of games. You'll get even their own games will launch in PC Game Pass with features that are missing or features that are behind, or it's an older build, and then Steam will have their own games running better on Steam. Even Epic Game Store and everyone else has the game running better than it is on the Xbox app. It's so many people just go, maybe I'll just go buy it on Steam. Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, is it important to install it on Game Pass, not have to spend that money, but then have to deal with all the other hiccups and issues that you wouldn't have to deal with, all the headaches that you wouldn't have to deal with if you just bought it on Steam?
Yeah, no, I don't
just. It's just not worth it.
I mean, I hear you. It's unfortunate to hear that. I mean, I'm going to download it anyway and probably, experience that firsthand. It's just unfortunate to hear that that's the case. I mean, that was kind of the issue with Halo Infinite when Halo Infinite launched, right? Remember that? I mean, it was I think that happened with us. We were playing Halo. I think we were like, all right, you know what? We're not going to try it on Game Pass. We're just going to get the Steam version and just launch it on Steam.
And just have fun. and I have to worry about all the other, like why is this not connecting correctly, and or with Starfield, the syncing issue, like you're just syncing for hours, is just not allowing you to launch the game. Also with Starfield, the Steam beta version got like the DLSS update first. Like, why is Steam beta getting updates before your own product for your own first party game? How does that make any sense? Like, it's just
because Satya said I want to be where the players are. If there's more players on Steam, then I gotta prioritize them.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it is what it is. Like, what's that game that is kind of like narrative driven? Still Wakes the Deep, I think it's called. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, ran like garbage on the Xbox PC app. Everyone I know that played it on that said, "Do not play it on that. Play it on Steam." It's just, so what's the purpose of having Xbox PC Game Pass if everything that comes out on it, I'm frustrated with the quality. And so what I've heard is that the reason why this happens is because the Xbox PC app is still kind of tied to Xbox when it comes to certifications. And so they are behind on certain like builds of games, on updates and all that stuff, because they have this long drawn out process to ensure quality. But I'm like, how are you ensuring quality that when it finally does come out, it's still buggier than other platforms that don't do all that nonsense? Like, you're wasting everyone's time, including your own, by doing that. It's just weird to me. Just, yeah, they gotta get better. But this has been something that's been ongoing with them for years, so I don't expect it to change anytime soon.
Sorry, I'm typing here. So let me ask you something, gentlemen. By the way, where is Forte, Slow-Mo? I haven't seen him in weeks. Is he alive?
I think he might still be in Georgia. I don't know, man. He went to Georgia. He out there having, grilling, having cookouts, and he don't call, he don't text. I don't know nothing. I don't know if we got a show coming tomorrow. I think we got a show tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't heard from him though. Shout out to him though. He's probably enjoying himself.
Yeah, he probably is.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he's enjoying himself. So let me ask you Logic and Slow-Mo, because there's been a lot of talk about the impact of Call of Duty. I think this is going to be an interesting. Matt Piscatella said this, or I think earlier today or yesterday. This is going to be a good test case to see the impact of Call of Duty on Game Pass. I think it's I think it's going to have some impact. I have seen some pundits say that it's going to have a 360-like effect. I don't think that's the case, but I do think it's going to have some impact on Game Pass and move some numbers. I just don't think it's going to be this game changer that some people are assuming that it's going to be. With regards to an uptick in Game Pass subscribers. But what do you guys think about the maybe potential impact of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 as a potential, like Matt Piscatella says, a potential early test case on the impact of a big franchise like this to Game Pass?
I don't know how. I don't expect like a massive jump in subscribers off of it, especially if you're dealing with a lot of people who have, like, they don't really play a lot of different kind of games. They may play Call of Duty, they may play a little Madden, but they mostly just play kind of Call of Duty and whatever like big massive thing that comes out whenever it comes out, the Hogwarts Legacies, the Grand Theft Autos, Red Deads, those kind of things, like the big popular game with the moment that even catches the casual's eye, they'll play that, but they kind of just stick to the annualized releases And if that's the kind of gamer that you are, you kind of like how I was saying about Concord, where it's great that they are giving you free content, free skins, you level up your characters, you everything, new updates are free. All that's great, but if the player doesn't see the value in it, it doesn't matter that you're doing these things with an upfront cost, and there's no additional cost to kind of nickel and dime you in the back end. They just don't care, then it doesn't matter. It's all about the perception. And Game Pass is a good value. It's a great value for all the kind of games that you're getting in it. And if you are really in consuming all the content that's in Game Pass, more power to you. You're getting your money's worth. That said, for some people, that the level of value is subjective for them. And I think for a lot of the people who are in that demographic where they play a lot of Call of Duty, the value is not as big as some people may think it is. Really, what you're getting, if you look at Black Ops 6 comes out at launch versus Modern Warfare 3 last year at launch. If you are an Xbox gamer, you don't have to spend $70, but that's where it ends. Everything else.
If you're an Xbox gamer on Game Pass Ultimate.
Yes, thank you. On Game Pass Ultimate, you don't have to spend $70, but you do have to spend $30 on if you want Black Sale, just like everyone else. You do have to spend $10 every season for the Battle Pass. You're still spending your money on the cool skins. Right now, they got WWE wrestlers in there doing their finishers as executions in the game. I'm definitely going to be one of them. But like that's a part of the Battle Pass in addition to other just you got paid for it straight up. Like if they put The Rock in there or something, like just because you got Game Pass Ultimate doesn't mean you're getting The Rock and hitting people with the rock bottom in the middle of a match. It doesn't matter. You're paying just like everyone else is. And so in the grand scheme of things, you're saving $70 and still spending all this other money in addition to having to pay for your monthly subscription of $20 a month for the rest of the year. Is that worth it to you? If you don't care about the other games that are going into Game Pass, you don't care about Xbox first-party games, you're not interested in Indiana Jones, Avowed, you're not interested in Perfect Dark, you saw Fable, you thought that was cool, but you don't even know when that's going to show up. So why would I stay subscribed until Fable shows up? These kind of things will go through your mind, and you're just like, well, I mean, I'm good. I'll just buy it like I always do. And I think they understand that, but if I also look on the other side of things of the person who doesn't play Call of Duty. So even though they'll say we didn't increase the subscription cost because of Call of Duty, nobody believes it. But if you're the kind of person that don't play Call of Duty, you don't even play first-person shooters at all, you're probably just like, and you like Game Pass, you're like, but damn, you didn't increase my price for a game that I don't even care for. So, I mean, I think all in all, they may see a bump in subscriptions, but when a lot of your growth in Game Pass comes from the PC side of things, and then on the PC side of things, this comes out, and I've seen people already talking about they installed it, got mad, and uninstalled it in the same day. Seeing people talking about how you have the worst version of Call of Duty on the 3 platforms, the 3 storefronts that have it on PC. Battle.net, Steam, in your own app, your first-party game runs worse on your platform than anyone else's. Why would they spend $10 to subscribe to deal with that? I just don't think for the newer releases it's going to make much of a deal. Now, what I thought they should have did, they should have had the rest the older Call of Duties in Game Pass months ago. And I don't know what the process is behind the scenes and why that hasn't happened, but I thought that would have been perfect for them, because then you could have been getting people who just want to play an old Black Ops game, you know? Oh, shoot, I never played Advanced Warfare. If you had put all those games in there at a time where we weren't getting close to the release of Black Ops 6, and before you put Modern Warfare 3 in there, it's going to take up somewhat some attention. That would have been perfect. I think you probably would have got a bigger bump of subscribers for people wanting to play those older games than for the current one and from last year's release. Like, if you guys remember when they fixed the server issues for like old Modern Warfare 2, and I think the first Black Ops or something like that, and then like they saw a huge spike in game sales for Call of Duty on Xbox. Like, there's a high level of interest to play those old games, maybe not like consistently, but to jump back in and play those games again. So maybe they would have saw some definitely some numbers increase for that, but they haven't even mentioned those older games. So who knows when they'll show up on the platform?
Yeah, Logic, what are your thoughts about the impact of Call of Duty? I'll give you I'll give you closing thoughts here before we wrap up the show.
Well, I mean, slow-mo. Not only do they have it like on 3 major storefronts, they literally make the operating system that the game runs on top of, as well as the abstraction layer that it uses to intercommunicate with the hardware. So.
They own everything.
It's like you rigged the game. You rigged the game, and you still missing layups. It's just crazy.
Oh man, come on,
crazy
layups. Oh man.
I mean, you got the referee in your pocket, man. You got the best players on your team, and you just still missing layups. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Missing free throws.
You know what I hear? They treat Matt Booty like Bill Cartwright. You got people on the court saying, "Don't pass the ball to Bill."
Oh man. Leave Bill Cartwright alone, man. He played his role. He, within the Bulls, helped them to three straight championships. Played his role.
He was there. He was there.
Nice shoes.
Oh man.
But I mean, look. I don't think it's going to move the needle in any significant way. I mean, it's weird that Matt Piscatella feels like this is a litmus test. I mean, it's like this is literally like the iPhone becoming available in a new country, but it's last year's version. It's like you start selling the iPhone 15 in some new country now, like at the end of July, when people know damn well that the iPhone 16 is coming out in September, October. I mean, it's always the tail of the tape. How many of last year's iPhones does Apple sell in this quarter right before the new one launches? Not many. In comparison to, so I don't know that the mainstream is really going to care. So I think the nucleus of people who care are the typical suspects, right? The Twitter and the YouTubers who talk about this stuff and would like to make a very big deal about it. But I don't think your fringe, the further you get from that center and get out towards the fringe, the fewer and fewer people care about it. Slow-mo talked about it a little. I mean, it's the weird play that Call of Duty has is the more you care about Call of Duty, the less incentivized you would be to consume it via Game Pass. Because if you care about Call of Duty and you actually want to play it, that means you're going to sacrifice the amount of time that you spend in other games, which means you're going to get less value out of the smorgasbord of, country cooking buffet, Golden Corral type food that you get at the trough of Game Pass. Because you want to put more time into Call of Duty, but to get it through Game Pass, you actually wind up spending more. Because you can only get it through Game Pass Ultimate. You pay $20 a month. That's $240. You pay for all the stuff that Slow-mo talked about. That's another $60. You're paying $300. Why would you do that? Like, you may as well just buy the game in the 6 battle passes, and you're at $130. And now you've got $170 to buy additional content. So, and it's just it'll be interesting to see how it plays. I mean, I think eventually, Call of Duty proper, the new one, will start moving some numbers. I think we talked about it on DPS, actually. I think you're going to get one big swoosh, right, of people coming in, and then it's going to flatten. And I don't think you're going to get another bump. And the key problem with that is the biggest get you have ever had, you ever will have, and you ever will be able to offer people is Call of Duty. So you're going to get what you get out of the Call of Duty bump, and then you're never going to have a bigger whale. So from that point, like it's only incremental growth going forward. And again, I mean the number that they're going to get isn't going to get them to the 100 million, 110 million number that they claim that they need to get to. So, you know, it's a good deal for people who are getting access to it. From the gamer perspective, I don't know that any of those people actually really care about Call of Duty, because if they did, then they would already be playing it. So, you know.
You know, it's if you're someone who enjoys Game Pass and you enjoy the day one releases and the indie games that, you know, pop up in there that are of quality, and then you also just happen to play Call of Duty, this is great for you. You're saving for that gamer. You are saving $70 because what you would have bought, you know, typically already, you don't have to buy, and you were already subscribed to the service for other reasons. But as Logic has said, if that's not you, I don't see why signing up specifically to play Call of Duty really makes any sense if you're not interested in all the other content. Now, if they really want to push Game Pass numbers, this is what you do. Those battle passes, they're free with Game Pass Ultimate. Then you'll see the numbers pop significantly. If you say, hey, look, not only is the game, the standard version of the game available on Game Pass Ultimate, you being a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber will get the battle pass every season it launches. You're not going to get Black Sale. You want Black Sale, you're going to have to spend that additional money. But we'll give you the battle pass every single season. You'll see people sign up for that, because that is a significant jump in savings from what they typically would be doing on an annual basis. But they're not going to do that. It's not going to happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah,
see, like everyone's saying in the chat, they will lose significantly on revenue by doing that. But you will gain all these subscriptions, and because people play Call of Duty so consistently, you will get that jump in subscriptions, and people will stay because they're getting every 3 months they're getting new value from that one game just by being subscribed. So they'll consistently keep paying because it's through the battle pass they're able to get access to something they didn't have to come out of pocket for. And then every 3 months they're getting even more value off another battle pass. That would push Game Pass numbers through the roof. But they won't do that. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Sorry, Johan, just read the chat here.
Yeah, Amy Hood wants some money now.
Yeah.
See, look, it's and Brian, he says Xbox knows that.
I was about to say
Microsoft
that.
Doesn't, right?
I was just about to say that. Yeah. Oh man.
I'm saying I wish they would do that. I wish they would do that just so I could see them, like, their eyes bug out as Game Pass numbers skyrocket.
Yeah.
Because they would get everybody. They would get a lot of people subscribing to Game Pass if they knew that they would get the game and all the battle passes for that game within the subscription. Yeah, that'll be a savings for them. They won't do it.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. All right, Joe, I do want to wrap up the show here. We're a little bit past 11 o'clock. I want to thank everyone for joining us live. Appreciate everyone in the live chat. Appreciate the new BRAP VIP members. Thank you so much for joining and becoming a BRAP VIP member. So And then also want to give a big thank you to
you
Slow.
got subscriptions now?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I
What
do.
is this?
Just rolled it out
How
today.
long did it take you to do this? I feel like when did this happen?
Yeah, it actually happened today. So just rolled it out officially
How did
today.
you wait this long?
You know what,
Enrique? How did you wait this long?
You know what, Slow-Mo? It's funny. It's funny. It's
How many
funny.
years has it been?
It's funny you mentioned that because someone in the live chat said that it's been long overdue. I was like, yeah, it pretty much has been long overdue. Yeah, I think you guys had it from like the get-go, did you? Oh, thank you, Slow-Mo. Look at that. Slow-Mo. A BRAP VIP.
See,
Slow-Mo, I'm going to send you a champagne bottle to your house, sir. Now remember, Slow-Mo, there's champagne in the champagne room, but there's no sex in the champagne room.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Matter of fact, substitute that champagne bottle. Send me some Merlot. I'll be good with that.
He's some Merlot. Oh my goodness, man. So, hey, Slow-Mo, so when are we gonna have the DMV beat up, man? That's what I want to know.
Oh man, I'll have to get out of witness protection.
Do you have to wear a bag over your head? Is that
it'll be a go? Yeah,
I think that'll happen when you buy everybody tickets to a Commanders game.
I don't think Slow-Mo would go.
50-yard line.
Slow-Mo,
center field. If you say 50-yard line, like what do they call it? Lower level? I forgot what they call it.
Lower bowl. Yeah. So wait, Slow-Mo, if I had tickets,
I'll be there.
You would be there. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I go.
I see how it is, man. Shit. I see how it is. So I gotta spend money on a Commanders
it's our
game.
year, man. Well, it's not really. Let me stop. It's not gonna be our year. Our team has got too much ground to cover. But Jaden Daniels is gonna be a beast, though.
You got me with the Carson Wentz thing, by the way.
Yeah, you all.
I was like,
everyone listening.
This
man had the audacity to try to sell me that Carson Wentz was going to be a good quarterback.
I thought he was going to be a good quarterback,
but he's going to call Jaden Daniels a bum. I'm just like, your detector on good quarterbacks is broken, man. Just broken completely.
You know what's funny is that you said, Enrique, you're the same one that said Carson Wentz was going to be good. So you saying Jaden Daniels is a bum like makes me feel good or something? I was like, oh man. Now I'm like,
I was just like, you saying he's going to be a bum must mean he's going to be a Hall of Famer. So I'm happy about that.
Oh man, I'm like the Michael Pachter of NFL.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the Michael Pachter of the NFL. That's oh my goodness, man. I mean, look, I hope he's good. I think they might honestly. We got to do a football podcast. I do think though. I think they're going to have a much better team than last year.
I think I agree with you, but I don't know if that's going to be reflected in the record. If that makes sense, like they might have like a slightly higher record and wins, but the games would be more competitive, and you can definitely tell they're a better team. But it just they might still lose games because they still got some holes they gotta fill.
Where do you think they have holes? I mean, secondary, maybe at the cornerback position.
Definitely secondary. Defensive end, they got no pass rush. They're not going to have any pass rush this year. You got no pass rush in your secondary.
Are they playing 3-4? Are they playing a 3-4 defense or?
Joe Witt, I don't know what his.
I don't know if they did.
Scheme he's going to
Dallas. Did Dallas run a 3-4? I don't think so.
Every NFL team does a lot of different formations, but what their primary formation would be, I think it might be 4-3, honestly. But it's just if you can cover for a bad secondary if you got a great pass rush, because then the quarterback doesn't have time to exploit your trash corners or your trash safeties, right? But if you got a trash secondary and you can't rush the passer, God help you. Like defense.
I don't disagree.
So I mean, I think we have smarter coaches this year, so maybe they'll still be somewhat better. But I just don't think they got the horses right now. And the
You said the
offensive
whole-
line was one of the worst last year, so I don't know if Jayden's going to get a lot of time. I just hope that he's a toothpick, so I just hope he just doesn't get killed.
Well, that's the concern that I have too. I feel like they didn't do enough to upgrade the offensive line. I mean, you know, we have Andrew Willie, right tackle, Brendan Coleman at left tackle. Sam Cosby's not a bad right guard. I mean, it's just there's a lot of question marks still, I think, at the offensive line. I think the defense should be okay, I think. But to your point, we don't have those edge rushers that we have last year. We still have Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen. The linebacking core is much improved. I think you would agree with that, right, Samo?
But, you know, they're also older. You know, like I like Wagner a lot. You know, he's a beast. He's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. But he's also old as hell. So it's just,
I mean, he's what, 30, 33, 34?
You reach an age where, say what?
He's what, 33, 34? You say he's 30?
I don't know. How much is Bobby Wagner? I mean, how old
he's not young. He's well, how old is he?
I think he's definitely in his 30s. He's 34.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great year last year. I mean, he had over 100 tackles. You know, Frankie,
but I mean, like,
Frankie Lou is a great ball player.
Happen? Did they happen at the line of scrimmage? Did they happen 10 yards down the field?
Come on, slow-mo. Well, I doubt they're happening at 10 yards down the field because he's the middle linebacker. I don't think he's that fast. They're probably having closer to the line. I mean, maybe not if he's dropping back in coverage, but
we'll see. We'll see. I'm training camp started yesterday. I hope they're great.
Yeah.
I'll be watching this year. I've had way more interest in this team ever since Dan Snyder finally stopped being the owner.
I hear you.
Not be ashamed of being a fan because they'll have this douchebag of an owner. So
I mean, yeah, what a dick. He was such a terrible owner. He was a criminal. Stole money from other NFL teams. You know, because remember he was fudging the books on the profit sharing, the ticket sales. I think I forget what it is. Like you're supposed to give like a percentage of the visiting team.
Yeah,
something.
Yeah, he wasn't paying the minority owners. He wasn't paying anybody.
Yeah, he was cooking the books. Yeah, he's a crook. Why? Why do you think he moved? Why do you think he moved to the UK?
Because he evading the bill collectors, man, and I think he's like when Congress wanted him to come, you know, to a hearing, and they had to send who's the commissioner,
Roger Goodell,
the commissioner of the NFL. Yeah, Roger Goodell had to go in instead because Dan Snyder was on a yacht in somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic, and he wasn't trying to be held accountable for his actions. So like, yeah, he's like when Josh, the new owner, the new ownership group, when they bought the team, they had to spend an additional $1 billion to pay Bank of America due to all the debts that Dan Snyder had accrued with this team. This is one of the most successful franchises in sports when he bought it. And he turned that thing into, it's like somebody buys a beautiful home and then it gets foreclosed on and people come in and look at it and it's just all fucked up. It's just like you got to take out an additional loan to get it fixed if you buy it. Like that's basically what he did to the once proud Redskins. So, oh well.
Yeah. Well, somehow you need to come back on the show more, man. Like you guys are never here anymore.
I know. I work a lot of times at night now, and then like there'll be times I'll be wanting to come on, and then I'm like literally configuring routers and troubleshooting shit across the world, and it's just yeah. But when I will make sure to make time. I'll hold me to that. I'll make sure I get more time in here for certain.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming through. Are you guys going to be live tomorrow?
I hope so. I haven't talked to Forte in like almost a week, so I don't know. But yeah, DPS podcast 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think it's supposed to be on Forte's channel. Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to be on. Wait. I don't know. I don't know whose channel it's supposed to be on. We'll figure it out. But the DPS channel will also have it as well. So go to the DPS channel, DPS podcast, and we'll be live there.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, definitely check out DPS. And thank you again, Slomo, for joining us. The Devil's Advocate. Forte, hopefully you're listening. You're probably not, but if you are, we miss you as well. Logic, I don't know if you want to be found, but if you do, let everyone know where they can find you as well.
Hey, bring Joe Gibbs back.
I'd be down for that. Even though I want to kind of give the current coach his chance. But yeah, I would be down for Joe Gibbs come back.
Bring back the Air Coryell offense. You can find me Sunday nights at 8:45 p.m. on the E2KG Network podcasting channel for the weekly episode of the Enough to Keep Going weekly video games podcast.
All right, no, thank you.
I guess you can also check out things like the article why everyone's predictions about Concord are wrong over on the roundingoffinfinity.blog website as well.
Awesome. All right. And thank you again, everyone in the live chat, for watching us. Appreciate the support. As always, please check out DPS tomorrow night, assuming they go live. Hopefully Forte returns from Georgia. And I will be on Crossfire tomorrow night. That goes live at 7 p.m. on Mooch's channel. So if you want to come out, hang out there, I will be there. And I also want to thank all the new BRAP VIP members. Thank you so much for the support. Really do appreciate it. And we'll be live. I'm actually going to do a BRAP rant this weekend. I'm definitely going to do one this weekend because I will be solo. So, I'm probably going to do one probably Saturday, I'm thinking. But anyway, give me a follow on X or Twitter, BRAP_podcast. That's where I put a lot of the pro rigging related notes when I'm going to go live, all that other good stuff. So, definitely give me a follow there. And, we'll catch you next time. But thank you again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Enjoy the rest of the week. Have fun playing video games because that's what it's all about. And Slomo, when we go off air, I need to talk to you about Shadow of the Erdtree DLC and the ending. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Talking to me about what?
Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, the ending.
Ooh. Confused, aren't you?
No, I'm not. But we'll talk about that in a second. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.